Hello, what's up, everybody? We are back. We are back
We
again.
are back.
So I have Sydney here, who is an appraiser. And in case you're wondering what an appraiser is, appraisers are the king of the transaction, a real estate transaction. They basically, literally have everything run at the top of their fingers.
I'm finally a king. I love it.
So take it away. Tell us, who is Sydney?
Wow, who is Sydney? I am so complex. I am into everything. If you know me on my posts, I am first a father, a husband, I'm a surfer. I'm everything, but my profession, yes, I'm a real estate appraiser. I've been doing this. This is my 20th year, if you can believe it. And this is what all the realtors give me, all this gray hair. So, but yeah, I mean, it is a funny statement that, we do have the market around our little finger because we're so utilized, we're so necessary to the banks and their process on approving funds to be lent to a borrower. So yes, when it comes to the refi and purchase market, we are in pretty much every transaction. Even if it's a cash deal, there's many times that for cash deals, people still want the appraisal because they want to know if they're getting a deal or how much more they're overpaying and things like that. So yes, we're very much in need. We're essential based on the
Right,
COVID
you are
docs.
essential. You're based on the COVID
Y-
criteria. You are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
So,
how long have you been in the business of appraising properties?
so I started appraising. I got introduced to it in 2002. In this time of the market, I was living in LA, Orange County. That was like my market area. And so, yeah, I mean, I came into the market, a market what it is like right now, right? It's super hot. Transactions were happening left and right, and that's all I knew. I go, wow, this is never going to end. It's like every month the homes are going up in value 10, 7, 5, 8, 10%. It was just unheard of. And the market in my life kind of came to a crash or a halt in 2007 when the market did, right? Because all of my eggs were in that same basket. And so I really got a taste of the downturn that everyone talks about. I didn't know what it was, and I got my first taste of what it actually is. And, it really allowed me to shape or reshape my appraisal experience and how I would come back differently and well more equipped with, other avenues of appraisals and how I could be more of a resource to my sphere. So yeah.
Yeah. So, when the downturn happened, how did that
Yeah.
affect your business?
You can hear a pin drop, right? So I don't know if anyone's familiar with Orange County, but we had an office space, me and some partners, where we had, I don't know, maybe like six other appraisers. We just sit down, the computers were paid for, the desks everything was supplied, and you can hear a pin drop. I remember the bank, I think it was like New Century Mortgage back in the day. And, we were at the time managing maybe 30 different broker shops or chop shops, whatever people like to call them now. And literally the next day, we were just sending reports to new banks because the many banks who had our files couldn't fund those loans. So, yeah, I mean, the market crashed, literally so did the business. I went to go find myself for 6 months. And after that time, I think my girlfriend at the time was like, "What are you doing every day?" I go, "I don't know." So, as enough and it was enough. And I actually went to go work with Chase. That's when Chase bought out Washington Mutual. Hopefully, I'm not outdating myself here, but Chase bought out Washington Mutual, so asset management was huge. I was doing like cash for keys. We're telling people we'll give you 10 grand to get out in 3 days, depending on the asset. So, yeah, it was a whirlwind. And I did that for about almost 2 years during this whole transition of the market. So it gave me like a different, look, lens into real estate for sure.
So, appraisers, I feel like appraisers got a lot of the blame for that market downfall, and then after that we had some changes that happened to
Yeah.
we do business. So, can you explain a little bit about that, and what was your experience in terms of that blame game that appraisers got the short end of the stick. I think.
Oh, I mean, we didn't get some of the blame. We got all the blame. Okay. So it had nothing to do with how loans were being made, the interest only, stated income, all that kind of jazz. But essentially, what they said, and I say they as the government entities that be, said that it was the influence that loan officers had on appraisers. And I'm not saying these things didn't happen in regards to, hey, we need another 10,000 for this to work. Now, there's a formula, a science to appraising, and there's some gray area. And I think some of that was happening, but not at the rate in which that would collapse a market, right? I think the market was just moving so fast. It was so hard to keep up that what they ended up doing is they introduced in 2008 something called Dodd-Frank. And you may not understand Dodd-Frank, but everyone, whether you're a real estate professional, you're a loan officer, you're an appraiser, everyone is affected by that. And what I mean is, prior to 2007, if I met a loan officer and we had good rapport, that loan officer could use me for his or her deal. So basically, I have a loan, I'm using Sydney, which is great because you were there to create relationships with people that you built. For me at that time, for myself, about 5 years of relationships that people were trusting you with their loans. And what Dodd-Frank did is it enacted like a third party company or buffer, I would say. So what happened was the loan officer wants to order an appraisal, it goes to a third party. The third party now has approved appraisers on their list, and then it gets spit out. And what that did in the beginning was it just went to anyone. So you had people coming from LA to San Diego to appraise that weren't keen on, as you know, here in San Diego, like let's say where your office is located in 92116, there's 3 different markets in that zip code. So people were coming in and utilizing Kensington, subjects properties in Kensington and using, University Heights sales or vice versa, or Golden Hill and South Park, even though it's the same zip. So, that had to get cleaned up, and it's not the best system, to be honest. I think there's a lot that the management company does that I think they kind of get in the way. And of course, it's the fees that the appraiser receives versus the AMC or their appraisal management company. So it's something that definitely needs to get cleaned up. I would rather them not be there, not that hopefully they're not employed by one. I think everyone should keep their job, but it definitely made things more difficult. Like yourself, Roxanne, if you needed something done like ASAP, you couldn't contact the borrower's loan officer and say, hey, can we get this taken care of? They would have to say yes, and then it goes to the third party. The third party has to communicate with us. We communicate back to them. So it could take, sometimes days for you to get something taken care of that could have been done in 10 minutes, right? So I think that's where, the holdup is, and a lot of people have an issue with, for sure, because it's higher fees that the borrower ends up utilizing, and then for everybody else, it's time. And time, as you know, is like the essence in real estate, right? So, yeah.
So I'm going to pull up your website and
my website. I haven't seen that in a while.
see what we can learn from your website. So tell us what our audience can find here if they are. Well, I see you have 4 categories here.
I do.
Tell us why. Why do you have 4 categories here?
Well, it's hand in hand with what we started talking about earlier. When the market crashed on me in 2007, when I came back as an appraiser after working with Chase, one of the first phone calls I received was, I think it was like a bail bond. It's like, hey, my sister, mother, cousin, is locked up and we need to get them out and we're putting our home as collateral. And I was like, whoa, I never heard of that before. And then the next call I got was, oh, my wife and I are getting divorced and we need an appraisal. I'm like, okay. And so I started really looking into the attorney market because, life is always happening, whether it's a trust situation, people are passing away and giving and gifting over properties, or, in any good market or bad market, people tend to get divorced, and that happens a lot, especially during this COVID. Let me tell you, I've never done more divorces during the COVID era than any time in my entire career. And so, it just really opened up a whole new avenue of business. And so, yes, I market to realtors. And as you see there, you see pre-list and price adjustments. In this market, there's not a lot of price adjustments, although I'm starting to see it soften. But a good pre-list appraisal, what that does is look, if it's a tract development, you don't necessarily need a pre-list. But if you have what I call the diamond in the neighborhood amongst all the other jewels of homes, and there's a lot of specific things, like maybe we're talking about granny flats or ADUs that maybe a lot of appraisers are not used to appraising, or there's not a lot of data to support value, then I say get a pre-list appraisal, because for one, it identifies where the property will probably close at. And two, you avoid any issues once you're in escrow that, oh gosh, this price is way off, or oh, these are the issues, or an appraiser's peer is not going to look at a certain feature the way I would. And when I say I mean like a realtor would. And then so you try to avoid issues up front, than waiting till escrow hits and you're about to close in 7 days and you're waiting for the appraisal, and those kind of issues pop up. So yeah, I definitely advertise to realtors because I work so closely with them. And the price adjustments as well. Like I said, it happens a lot, but and one other thing I should probably add is, I know you see rebuttals there, but there's a lot of measurements that have taken place that, let's say something is marketed at $800 a square foot, but the square footage of that home is 150 square feet off. That's a big price difference at $800 a square feet, right? So if there's any discrepancy or questions about the size of the home, my team and I, we go out, we measure, we provide a report. That can be done same day, just so you guys have a real grasp of what's going on with that property.
So what's an ironclad rebuttal?
Ironclad rebuttal is not based on emotion, right? And I teach this because it's based on facts. And what I think realtors and loan officers really start doing is thinking, not, I would say like an appraiser, but knowing appraiser guidelines, right? What happens in a rebuttal is essentially the appraiser cannot find enough supportive data out in the market in MLS or tax sales that would support the list price or the contract price. So when this happens, obviously the deal could be, is in jeopardy. So when a realtor is trying to challenge the appraisal, which I think they should if they have and I always ask the realtors this, what's your angle? Because they'll call me, hey, Sydney, I have this rebuttal. I'm like, well, what's your angle? Is it based on size, location, the condition of the home? Like, what are you trying to challenge the appraiser on, right? And so I think if they start to get to know appraiser guidelines, which off top is like 20% on the GLA. The GLA is gross living area, or the square footage of the house, right? So if a home is 2,000 square feet, we're going to look at comps between 1,600 square feet and 2,400 square feet. Now, I'm not to say that I can't use a 2,800 square foot house, but why am I going outside that guideline, right? Is it comparable or is it competitive? And those are two different things. And so I enjoy teaching realtors about these things, because look, if it helps you, it helps me, right? I want your deals to happen. I want everyone to be happy. But unfortunately, as the appraiser, we can't tell the bank, and I've heard this from a realtor before, like, oh, I just know what people are willing to pay for. I go, that's amazing. But they're trying to get financed, and I have to explain this to the bank and provide data to the bank to say, hey, this is why this price at 1.5 is supported, and here's all my data, here's all my information to back that up with comparables, right? So, and there's ways that I think, not all appraisers are maybe aware of, but, in a market like we're in right now, and how to adjust for the increase in market, it's based on contract date, not sale date. So all those kind of little tips I think are great for you guys to really know, because it only empowers you so that, and your clients, right? So if your client feels that their home was not supported, and I use that word not supported, and not that the appraisal didn't come in, because a good friend of mine, he's a loan officer, and he told me, Sydney, I tell my clients the appraisal always comes in value. It may not be agreeable to the contract price, but it should be value, right? So yes, this is how I can
Value.
average, teach, professionals on how to support themselves in this kind of field. So
So what you're saying is it always comes at value. It may not be the value that you like, but it comes in. Well, but you know what? In our realtor world, we
mhm.
use appraisal comes in at value pretty much to mean that it's coming in at contract price.
Correct.
So
But those are two things, because you have cost and you have value, right? What someone ends up paying for the property is cost. What most people under normal circumstances are willing to pay for a product, meaning the product, the house, is value, right? Now you have your one-off. So let's just say a home was for sale at 975, and it was a bidding war, and it under normal circumstances maybe this home would appraise for 1,025,000, right? But then someone comes up and goes, I'm going to pay $300,000 over asking. That doesn't mean that it's value. That's just the price someone's willing to pay for whatever reason, right? So I think it's a very fine line and a gray area between what a realtor identifies with value than what truly the value is, right? And one thing I would add is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Roxanne, I would say when a realtor is coming up with the list price, it's based on the average price per square foot, for that neighborhood. So if a home is, 3,000 square feet, and let's say it's in Coronado, and the price per square foot is $1,000. It's probably 1,300 or 1,400 now, but this is $1,000. You go, okay, cool. House is, here, $3 million for this house, right? But an appraiser, when we make adjustments, we're not adjusting the size difference at $1,000 a square foot, because in that $1,000 square foot are all these units of comparison. We're including the location, the lot size, the condition, the bedroom count, the size of the home, the amenities, the view. All of those things are equaled into that $1,000 a square foot. And so sometimes I think when a realtor wants to rebut an appraisal, they'll say, well, like this house is 500 square feet difference at $1,000 a square foot. That should be our value. And it's not that easy, because we're like, yeah, that's true, but there's all these different, units of comparison we have to include within that scope. So that's where I think an appraiser may adjust the size at maybe $250 a square foot, right? Because we're adjusting also for difference in lot size and views and all these other things that equal or the sum of that $1,000 a square foot. So I think the more you guys know about that, the more you can be well equipped and kind of pick and go, hey, I think the appraiser might be here on an adjustment between the difference between this house and that house. And I think that will ultimately help you guys as well.
oh look, I just learned to play around on your
Yeah, you got to touch a little bit. There it is. See?
So what about this one? Tell us about the Tidewater Initiative.
Okay, so Tidewater, that's when the stopwatch is on. So when an appraiser enacts Tidewater, they're telling the realtor that they are not going to come in value. They're saying, we don't have enough supportive data. You have 2 days to send us supportive data. Now, the only tricky part about that is you don't know which comparables the VA appraiser has chosen. So you may be giving the same comps that they already have. So really, you're in a scramble to go, let me find everything that I feel would be supportive of this house. Now, I think if you market in a specific area, you should know the ins and outs of a neighborhood or a market or a district. So I think it behooves the realtor when they're listing a property that may be eligible for VA or FHA and things of that nature, you have to know the ins and outs. Why am I coming up with this list price? Is it an over and eager seller that I just want to please? Or if I'm really educating and letting them know that, hey, here's the potential. Yes, he can go here, but the ceiling is here, but here's where the action is. Because as an appraiser, we have two things. We call them outliers, which are like, let's say we have a cluster of sales. The home is listed for 900. I don't know why I keep using 900. Maybe that's just like the median price in San Diego now. But if I have sales that are 850, 875, 925, 935, those are what we call the cluster. And then you may have one that's like 550. Okay, maybe that was a trust sale. Then you have another one that's like 1.3. You're like, it's like $400,000 difference. So those are what we call outliers. Now, if you're taking that one comp at 1.3 and go, we're going to list that 1.3. Well, why is that one? Why did that one sell for 1.3? So call your peer. Hey, this one sold for $400,000 more than every other one. Can you give me some information about that? Now, if your peer as a realtor is going to play ball, they're going to go, yeah, here's why it sold, or oh, they had an ADU, or it was a new build. They gutted the home and started new. Okay, well my client gutted their home and started new. So that's what we call competitive instead of comparable. Now, for a competitive sale, and I give this example because it happens so often. I recently did one in Encinitas. It was on the bluff. Okay, but like I can go to Bird Rock and use a property on the bluff, even though it's more than a mile away, which is the appraiser, guideline. So I can go 30 miles for a sale if it's competitive, because I'm saying, well, my home is on the bluff and faces the ocean. Let me find another home that's also on the same location, right? So I want something on the bluff as well, because if I use a home, but let's say with sand frontage, that could be $1 million adjustment, which I've done before. And so I think it's when you're going competitive, you're looking at the real specifics of a property and not just, oh, it's a tract development. Every third house is the same. Those are a lot more simpler to appraise than something that's very, very unique. Oh, look at that picture.
Look at that. You were going.
Who's that guy?
Well, that only means one thing. You've been in business for a while. You know what you're doing, right?
I have been in business for a while. I'm continuing to learn. I have like a weekly meeting with my team every Monday, and we're talking about everything, new schematics, what's going on in the market, what do we need to brush up on, and one thing that we recently talked about, and I think is super important, because I recently received a rebuttal from a realtor, and this has everything to do with real estate and why I enjoy it. So it was a duplex, right? And the realtor, was questioning my appraisal, and I'm honest, open to say that. And I was like, okay. And they're like, well, you didn't use a comp that's on the same street. And I said, yes, I didn't. And they were vexed with me. Let me tell you, they're like, it's on the same street. He doesn't know what he's doing. And I go, well, let's slow down. So what ended up happening being was, you, and I don't expect realtors to do this on a day to day, but as an appraiser, it is our job. So the zoning was different. And that's why I didn't use it, right? So the zoning, I think, was like, let's say it was like RM 3-7, which says you can have one dwelling unit for every 1,500 square feet of lot size. So the subject property had a lot size of 2,800 square feet, which made it legal non-conforming. So it's legal at some time, but now no longer conforms because it needs a minimum of 3,000 square feet lot. Where the the comparable property on the same street, had a lot size of 6,000 square feet, so they can legally have 4 units. So although it looks like a duck and quacks like one, it may be something different because they're duplex and duplex, but the lot size dictated the zoning, which made that more it made that more suitable. And so that's why, and then of course I called a realtor and they go, oh yeah, we sold more because you can throw 2 more units on there. So those are the kind of things that, it's like we should be, lack for a better term, really nerding out or really getting into our industry and what you do, because just finding those little nooks and crannies when you're representing a seller. I mean, and they're like, hold on, I can get what? Because you've done the homework about the zoning. So I think zoning is going to be a really important thing, especially going into the thick of the ADU laws that we've been into now 5 years in. SB 9 is just dropping since January, how you can split your lots and, street to alleys. So I think, I would encourage everyone to get into the zoning aspect of real estate now, because I think that's where you can really, help your clients in a real way.
So this has been very educational. Thank you so much for
You're
joining
so
us.
welcome.
And audience, if you are trying to get a hold of Sydney, and if you are trying to get an appraisal, you can of course go to his website, which is listed here, or you can call him at his number, which is also listed here, or even easier, you can send him an email and
Please
ask
do.
for any appraisals that you may be interested. And of course, if you are thinking of buying or selling, you can always contact me here or on my email here or on either one of the websites that you see, either Roxanne Govari or Pemberley Realty. And if you found this information useful, please give us a like or uh, or subscription for our YouTube channel and at pemberleyrealty.com. And thank you so much for joining us. And you guys have a great day.
Thanks, Roxanne.
Thank